This address is confined to the present today need to refine and reform the maritime education training to the younger generation and to induce them to follow a national heritage as a leading maritime nation on the global level for a country like ours. First, I would like to clarify that the present effort in which I am involved is only to reform maritime training and not towards closing down the maritime training institutes approved by the Director General of Shipping, who is striving their best to turn out best students or graduates to join the marine industry. When it has taken over a decade to establish the maritime training institutes in the country, it is not a right action to close down an institute altogether where the stakeholder is mainly an entrepreneur who has interest both in education and as well as maintaining a decent profit level. I wish to advocate stiffer selection of norms for employing the marine faculty who are the basic tool to create the well-groomed products, the new aspirants to join the marine industry at a later date. Talking of maritime education is a very special area. It is unlike other professional and educational courses. It is purely a practically oriented education. There is a practical training, hands-on skill imparted during this training. Besides conventional classroom education of theory, the student is also trained for his day-to-day good manners, display of manners, behavior with the fellow students, as how he will actually show loyalty and hard work when he goes on a ship to work for a ship manager. Now, we are going through a crisis in the shipping industry due to the global economic recession, as I had outlined earlier. As President Obama pointed out, that when we have the crisis can be converted to opportunities. So now we should be looking for opportunities rather than, blaming the crisis. Now, what are the advantages for our country? The greatest advantage is for last 3 to 5 decades, they have been top-notch managers, leading the whole world's merchant fleets for various owners. We have made a name in this area. We carried our flag high. Indian officers are considered the best. They are innovative, very flexible, very professional, very hardworking. This is the name that we have had on the entire global, industry. Are we not to continue this for the coming generations? It is in our hands. If we had excelled in our profession, the credit is for our mentors. Are we not mentors today to get that credit of passing the scales to the newer ones? Are we here to deny them? The unfortunate situation today is that young boys coming out of the colleges as graduates in marine engineering, nautical education, they are outrightly denied even the first level of shipboard phase of training. which is required for them to go for the first level of competency certificate, without which they cannot progress in their career. A simple degree in marine engineering or nautical science is no more than a piece of paper. If a graduate cannot get the opportunity to join a ship and climb up in the career through the systematic competency examinations from the Government of India. Now, the Director General of Shipping is a flag state administration in this country. They are the most responsible department administrating the affairs of maritime training, and as one of the earlier Director General of Shipping envisioned that we should have million seafarers in our country. I think it's the right choice he made, but perhaps though the thought was there, the implementation has not seen the real, the fruit of his vision. So I feel that the implementation has gone through very, very difficult stages. Today we cannot boast of very skillful students coming out as potential seafarers, which is seen as a major complaint from many ship managers and shipping companies. So Indians are losing the market in the international competition. On one hand, you are expensive as compared with Filipinos, Chinese, Croatians. Now Ethiopians, Angolans are coming out. We are losing our market because of the younger generation's attitude, as one might say, from the ship manager's point of view. But however, the training institutes devised by the Director General of Shipping have very, very limited role. The role of teaching a student as assigned by the DG Shipping educational scheme. However, they cannot become totally responsible for rendering a student to take a shipboard training phase. They are not the shipping companies. The DG Shipping has devised two systems. One is they have allowed the shipping companies to start their own training institutes. They have allowed the private entrepreneurs to start their training institutes. The shipping companies having the training base will select students only from their training base. They will not select boys from graduating from private training institutes. The private training institutes having state enormous capital investment, infrastructure, they would not like to lose. Naturally, they go into pure commercialization. So the ultimate consequences here is the dependence on agents and intensifying the admission to fill the seats and alluring students with glossy advertisements of promising a great career in the merchant navy, and the students fall for it. The parents get deceived. They take enormous loans after selling their properties, their private savings, their home savings, all that invested on a boy completing his graduation with a lot of hurdles. Now he is thrown in lurch in the streets of Mumbai, where he will not be allowed an entry in any shipping company or even an interview. It's a very, very frustrating experience. I keep getting a lot of mails from students, and There is very little that as individual I can do anything. So it is very important at this stage the Government of India take cognizance of this. I have written to the Director General of Shipping several letters. I have addressed my letters to the Shipping Ministry to no result. I have taken up this matter to the maritime community at large through the internet pages, through the newspaper media, with no result. It is seen that most of these people working in the industry do not want to antagonize, say anything which is, as a petition to file to the Government of India or the Ministry of Shipping or the Director General of Shipping. The students are threatened that they will be victimized, or the senior mariners working in different area of the industry also they might feel may be victimized, or they will be in disfavor of the administration. So the petition that is put online for taking up with the ministry is not being signed, though the content of the petition is being agreed by most of the mariners today. Now, as I said, that there has to be some solution to the problem. What we are seeking from the Government of India and the Director General of Shipping is for the Government of India to invest funds rather than putting the blame on the training institutes to put enormous funds for infrastructure. In countries like China, UK, Japan, the government is spending a lot of money for putting the boys on practical training on ships. And India being a very large country with enormous potential, and we stress on our human resources in the international maritime industry, I do not see why we are not in a position to do so. I estimate out of hand 1,000 crore of rupees can be invested by the Government of India to set up a large training base, a seafront, say 15 to 20 merchant ships in a place like Alam in Gujarat. Today, India is a country which can boast of the largest ship demolition place in the world. Ships of varieties come to Alam. The Government of India do not have to go about buying ships second hand. They would only buy the ships as per my proposal, buy the ships at demolition cost, that is the scrap value, and sell it after a few years of using it for training at the same demolition cost, whatever that exists in the market at that time. Now, one may suspect that demolition ships are not good for training. But here I must remind you that a ship coming for demolition is not necessarily bad or in its material state. Many of these ships come for demolition because they are unable to trade economically around the world. In the lean market of low freight conditions, the ships are not being able to trade, so they go for demolition. Or some of these equipment, machineries, some of these ships become obsolete, like single skin tankers. They had to be demolished. So these vessels can be used for giving important training of hand skill, where the choice between the nationals would stand first in favor of Indians if they are given the hands-on training on board the ships. The Government of India, after they invest money on these ships. They can lease out these ships in favor of many private training institutes. There will certainly be takers. After all, if one leading training institute in Chennai, they have acquired a ship, I do not see why the private training institutes won't be willing to lease these ships from the government for a cost, if it is going to be very helpful for students getting their career after the education. So I would like that the DG Shipping and the Government of India to look into this aspect. The place can be earmarked close to Alam. Experts can study that area. The Government of India can get permission from the Environment Ministry. They can get cooperation from the local state government, who will, after all, only will jump at the idea that there is something significant going to happen in the state, imparting a national level training for our own boys. Now, for imparting this education and training in the merchant Navy, it is very, very important to create core faculty of dedicated trainers. And these are not going to be conventional lecturers. Besides academics, they should in fact be people who are willing to impart practical training. As I said before, it is not just the classroom education, it is also the onboard hand skill which is very important. So the teams can be created to serve this interest. There must be a synergic cooperation between the training institutes and shipping companies, which must be made mandate-free from the DG Shipping. There cannot be a training institute to exist without a mandatory cooperation and relation with a properly operating shipping company or ship management. This must be made a very, very stiff requirement, and the selection of candidates for joining various maritime studies should be through a central pool supervised by the INSA, MASA and FOSMA, which will have an impartial view, and they will know the grade of students to be selected and can be allocated to the various training institutes. Rather than the individual institute doing their own marketing, and ultimately we will end up in poor grade of students coming into the industry. So I hope that this idea would catch some interest in the marine community, and we will go forward in this. I am willing to discuss. I am ready to, spend any length of time. If any exploration is required, I would be most willing to do this one. I am sure many other professional engineers and mariners like me would be most willing to do this, to set up to see that our future mariners are a great success, 10 times or 100 times more than what we did in our times. Thank you.